Have you ever wondered what race should I play in World of Warcraft? Or maybe you're a little intimidated by how many choices there are. Well, today I'm going to go into each of the races in World of Warcraft and hopefully give you a little bit of information on which race you should pick and why. So first let me go over to the two factions because this will determine which race you can pick. The two major factions in World of Warcraft are the Alliance and the Horde. So the values of the Alliance are nobility, honor, faith, justice, and sacrifice. They are trying to fight for peace and contribute their skills to create a peaceful and just world. And they're very organized. The Horde, on the other hand, are loosely joined in alliance against a hostile world that would see them destroyed. They're focused, ferocious, and sometimes monstrous, and the Horde values strength and honor above all else. The Horde fight for freedom. So the Alliance and the Horde are almost always like posed against each other. So if you play an Alliance character, you can group up with other players who are Alliance, but you won't be able to group up with any players who are Horde, and vice versa. Now there is PvP involved where the Alliance can fight the Horde, but again, you're fighting against the Horde and they're not actually in your group. The Alliance have humans, dwarves, night elves, gnomes, Draenei, Worgen, and the Horde have orcs, undead, Tauren, troll, blood elves, goblins, and then Pandaren are a class that can be either Alliance or Horde, so they're on both sides. There are additional races called the Allied races, but if this is your first time playing World of Warcraft, you won't have access to those. This is going to focus mostly on the races you can play without having any experience into the game. And each race can be male or female, but don't worry too much because you can change this later. It just costs a little bit of gold in game, so you don't have to worry about being locked into a certain gender. You can they changed that recently to make it so that you can go to a barbershop and get a sex change. So just like real life, right? Also, if you decide you don't like a race, you can do a race change. However, this does cost money. So you want to kind of pick which race you want before you're too heavily invested into your character. So let's start with the humans. Humans are kind of the leaders of the Alliance. The current king, King Anduin Wrynn, is the leader of the Alliance. Their capital is in Stormwind, and they're just kind of your basic humans. Their traits are that you get increased haste, crit strike, mastery, and versatility. These are all secondary skills, so you get a little bit extra benefit to that. A big one is they get bonus to reputation gain. So there are several different entities in World of Warcraft that you can gain reputation with, and that unlocks certain things from them. For example, in Battle for Azeroth, there was the Zandalari Trolls. There's things like the Steamweedle Cartel. Stormwind even is a place you can get reputation from. So they get extra bonuses to that. They can also break out of stun effects with Will to Survive. This is very useful for PvP. So humans are one of the most common races picked for PvP. So if you want to do mostly PvP, humans are a good choice for that. And a lot of cool customization options as well. So next up, we have dwarves. The dwarves are kind of short and stout when compared to humans. They can take, so their ability is they can take on a stone form, which reduces some damage taken and removes some harmful effects. Increased effect from crit strike, they're resistant to frost damage, and they can find more archaeology fragments and survey faster. Archaeology is a profession in World of Warcraft, so they get a little bonus to that. They also have some cool customization options that were unlocked recently. Things like feathers, tribal paint, a lot of really cool things that you can do for dwarves, even a mohawk. So next up we have night elves. So night elves are one of two elf classes in the Alliance, similar to wood elves in D&D, but essentially they're very focused on nature and they live in a druidic society. So they defend the wilds against basically affronts to nature. So they have a nice thing called Shadow Meld where they can fade into the shadows. This removes all threat. So if an enemy is attacking you, you can use that and essentially fade away so that the enemy can't target or attack you anymore. They're more difficult to hit. You get, I think, 1% dodge chance. They move faster when dead, so when you die in World of Warcraft, you turn into a spirit, you have to go back to your body, and I believe they move 25% faster to that. They're resistant to nature damage. They move faster while stealthed, so if you play a druid class or a rogue class, they do get a 5% bonus to movement speed while stealthed. And they have faster attacks at night and increased crit chance during the day. So that's something that's kind of cool that it depends on when you're playing the game. And one thing to note is this is the only race on the Alliance side that can play a Demon Hunter class. So if you're thinking of becoming a Demon Hunter, Night Elf is the only option for Alliance. And a lot of cool customization options for them as well. You can get leaves in your hair, all kinds of cool stuff. Alright, next up, we've got Gnomes. So Gnomes are definitely the shortest out of any race. The Gnomes are known for their technological expertise and creating huge machines and, using engineering to create like really cool weapons, defensive structures, logistical networks, things like that. They have a nice ability that gets them out of movement impairing effects. They get an increased resource pool, so they get 5% more mana, rage, energy, depending on which class you pick. They're resistant to arcane damage. Their engineering skill is increased. Again, engineering is another profession you can choose, and that's increased by 15, I believe. And they also attack faster, so you get 1% increase to haste. And they do have a few customization options. Personally, I'm not too big on the Gnomes just because I don't like how short they are, but if this is something that appeals to you, feel free to take a Gnome. Next up, we have the Draenei. So a Draenei is essentially a space goat. Space goat humanoid. They fled one of their planets and have landed on Azeroth. Their jewel crafting skill is increased by 10. They have an ability that heals them for 20% of their max health over time. They get an increase to agility, intellect, and strength. Those are the main stats that you're focused on depending on your class. And they're resistant to shadow damage. Personally, I really like the Draenei. I think they're a really cool looking class. They have, like horns and tails and hooves, like tentacles. I don't know. I think they look cool. All right, next up we have Worgen. So Worgen is basically a werewolf. It's important to note that this class has a human form and a werewolf form. So that's something to keep in mind, is if you want to play a human but also be a werewolf, you pick this class. I will note that if you are in combat, you will be in your werewolf form, but you can change to your human form when you're out of combat. And there are certain abilities that change you back to a Worgen as well. So their racials is they get Dark Flight, which gives them a movement speed increase, and they can also drop to all fours and become their own mount. Their crit chance is increased by 1%, they're resistant to nature and shadow damage, and their skinning skill and speed is increased. So skinning is another skill, and they get a little bonus to that. I'll show you some of the customization options here. I mean, I think they look really cool, and it is kind of neat that you get a human form as well. Especially, I think they did a good job with the female one as well. I think it looks really cool. But yeah, that's the Worgen. We have the Pandaren. So again, these can be Horde or Alliance. So they're from an island called Pandaria, and they're spiritual. They have a deep love for cooking, brewing, and adventure. So Panda abilities. So they have an ability that can put an enemy to sleep for 4 seconds. They get twice as much rested experience. So when you log out in World of Warcraft, you get something what's called rested experience, where you essentially get double the experience for killing enemies and stuff when you log back in for a certain amount. So they get twice as much as that, so it's really good for leveling. They get increased benefits from eating food. Their cooking skills increased, and they're bouncy, so they take less falling damage. A lot of cool customization options as well. if you like pandas a lot and you want to play a panda boy, that's an option. So now let's talk about the Horde races. So the leader of the Horde kind of changes from expansion to expansion, but Orcs have always been there, kind of the founders of the Horde. They originally tried to conquer Azeroth, but now they're trying to reclaim their honor and traditions. So Orcs get a increase. They can enrage to increase their damage. They're resistant to stun effects, which is really good in PvP. It reduces the duration of stun effects by 20%. And then they also deal more damage from pets. If they're a hunter or a warlock, even some other classes like shaman has pets, those do more damage. And they recently added some really cool customization effects too, with the like the war paint. Like you can make them look like pretty sick. All right, next let's go to the Undead. So the Undead, also known as Forsaken, are part of the Scourge that kind of turned against the Scourge, which was this kind of undead army led by the Lich King. So they've been in the Horde for a long time. Their abilities are Will of the Forsaken. They can remove Charm, Fear, and Sleep effects, which is really nice. Also really good for PvP. They can eat corpses to regain health and mana if they need to heal. They also have an ability that they can drain health from enemies, so you get a little bit of a leeching effect. And they can breathe underwater indefinitely, so they can breathe forever underwater. It's not as bad in retail as it is in classic, but it is still a nice little perk to have. They're also resistant to shadow damage. And yeah, these are basically zombies. So if you like rocking a zombie class, you know, go for it. Next up, we've got Tauren. These are the beefy boys. Essentially a bull human hybrid, or cow human hybrid. And Tauren, kind of like the Night Elves, they're very in tune with nature, and they try to protect nature when they can. So their abilities is they can stomp, which stuns nearby opponents. They get increased stamina. Stamina is what determines how many hit points you have, so they get a little bit extra of that. Their herbalism skill and speed is increased. So herbalism is another profession, so they get a bonus to that. They're resistant to nature damage, and they get increased effect from critical strikes. So if you like cow people, you know, this might be the race for you. Next up, we've got trolls. Now, trolls are kind of a tribal race. They can berserk, which increases your haste for 15% by 15%. So haste is generally how fast you're attacking something and how fast you can use your spells, abilities, that kind of thing. They also get increased regeneration, so that they gain health over time faster than the other races. They get increased experience from killing beasts, and also reduces duration of movement impairing effects by 20%. Again, a lot of cool customization options for these guys. I played a troll before, and yeah, they're pretty neat. Next up, we have Blood Elf. So this is one of the most popular Horde classes, because they're probably the most similar to humans. So Blood Elves survived a war and called themselves Blood Elves because of their fallen comrades. So their abilities are their enchanting skills increased. Their enchanting skills increased by 10. Enchanting is another profession. They have an ability that can remove a magical effect from nearby enemies and use that to restore mana or energy. And they are resistant to arcane damage. And lastly, their critical strike chance is increased by 1%. And similar to the Night Elves, this is the only Horde class that can become a Demon Hunter. Yeah, a lot of cool customization options as well. And lastly, we have the Goblin. So Goblin was added in Cataclysm. They're kind of like the Horde equivalent of Gnomes. They're short and they have very high knowledge of engineering. They're very into making money and kind of the economy. They have a lot of abilities. They can rocket jump forward. They can also launch rockets at enemies. They do get a vendor discount. They can summon a personal bank every 30 minutes. They also get a 1% increase to haste, and they get a bonus to alchemy skill and potion healing, which is another profession. And they have some decent customization options. Not as good as probably some of the other races, but not too bad. Ultimately, all the races are fairly close when it comes to stats and abilities. So you really want to just pick which you like looking at the most and which one you feel like you would enjoy playing the most. So that pretty much sums it up for this race guide in World of Warcraft. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. If you have any extra questions you want me to answer, please put them in the comments and I will do my best to answer all of you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and see you next time.